Discover the incredible moment a humble maid, exhausted from 3 jobs, wakes to a life-changing surprise. Maria scrambled out of bed, her heart racing as the sun streamed through the worn kitchen window, casting a warm glow over her tired face. Today was different. Somewhere deep inside her, she could feel a flicker of hope, even as exhaustion pulled at her. She tied her hair back and put on her patched leather shoes, reminders of sacrifice and resilience. It was a typical morning. The sounds of lawnmowers roared outside, mixing with the shouts of kids racing to school. Yet in the midst of the everyday chaos, Maria found purpose in each sizzling pancake. Each glance at her spirited daughter, Lily, with her bright eyes and wild curls, scooted to the table, her laughter filling their modest home. "Mom, can I be a doctor when I grow up?" she asked, eyes beaming. Maria's heart swelled with pride and worry. The relentless grind of being a maid, a waitress, and a grocery store clerk barely kept them afloat. But each smile from Lily was a promise of a better future, one Maria vowed to make possible. Yet, the fragility of this dream quaked when news broke of a contest hosted by the mayor, aimed at recognizing unsung heroes in their town. The prize spoke to Maria. Not merely money, but a chance to elevate her stature, to step out from the shadows of neglect. Yet her gut twisted. Rumors of her past mistakes clung to her like a dirty shirt, dragging her down. Could she really dare to put herself forward when society whispered she doesn't belong here? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days passed, an embarrassing local scandal came to light. Her sister Tanya had returned, flaunting success like a snare drum beating with every story shared. Tanya's life swayed like a pendulum, laden with accolades. They hadn't spoken since that fateful night when old wounds seared Maria's pride. But now, Tanya's unexpected presence added fuel to Maria's internal fire. Was it jealousy or admiration she felt? Could the past be rekindled over shared pain? Eyes narrowed in determination, Maria entered the competition. It felt surreal. As she stood on that stage, her heart thumped wildly. Winning felt like touching the sky, a dream realized. Yet when the victory dance settled, the whispers turned to shouts. "She doesn't deserve this," she heard. The crowd murmured, casting judgment as if her struggles were merely obstacles of choice, not of circumstance. In an emotional storm at the packed town hall meeting, Maria stepped forward, her voice trembling yet powerful. The truth spilled out like an unrestrained river: her sacrifices, the burdens she carried, the dreams she envisioned for Lily. Would her words ripple through their community? Could they see the overlooked families standing behind her, yearning for recognition? With bated breath, the hall hushed. The tension crackled. Out there, did the community feel her pain? Did they open their eyes to the invisible lines drawn in the sand? The lines that separated privilege from struggle? Would the long-held perceptions shift? The air held a question, a yearning for love and healing, leaving the audience to wonder about the fate of the sisters caught in their painful past. Would they unite their hearts or forever linger in the shadows? Maria stood there, her heart racing as the room fell into a hush. The whispers that filled the air dissolved into silence, as if the entire town was holding their breath, waiting for her next words. In that charged moment, she felt the weight of 100 stares upon her. But more importantly, she felt the ache of her own truth stirring within. "I've battled my way through nights of relentless work, just to put food on the table," she admitted, her voice quivering but firm. "You don't see me as I am, but as a shadow, and I'm here to change that." The emotion welling up in her chest surged like a tide, carrying with it the years of struggle she faced: the missed birthdays, the sleepless nights, the hollow triumphs. Each beat of her heart echoed her longing for belonging and acceptance. Lily watched from the crowd, her wide eyes sparkling with a mix of admiration and anxiety for her mother. As Maria's words spilled forth, Lily's tiny fingers curled around a frayed piece of paper with a crudely drawn heart, her mother's dreams, illustrated by a child who believed wholeheartedly in her. Then came Tanya's voice, cutting through the air, sharper than she intended. But Maria, you have choices. You could have chosen something different. In an instant, Maria's stomach dropped. The echoes of their shared past rang in Maria's ears, the carefully buried grudges resurfacing with impossible force. A stifled gasp swept through the audience, eyes darting between the two sisters, drawn into a familiar, yet haunting dance of competition and misunderstanding. Maria took a deep breath, collecting her thoughts. Would she let old words wound her? The memories of their childhood flashed before her sisters once, now strangers guarded by shadows of resentment. Tanya, Maria softened her tone, you may not know what it means to make choices while drowning. It's not just about choosing. It's about survival. The tension in the hall shifted. Some nodded, while others remained silent, caught in their own reflections about hardship. Yet it was evident. She was making an impact. The murmurs of judgment began to die down, as she appealed to the very humanity they shared. Look around. You see people fighting their own battles, hidden in plain sight, she urged. Each of us has a story, scars that remind us of our struggles. I want to share mine, not just for me, but for all of us overlooked and ignored. The vibe in the room changed, an electric spark igniting hope. Faces once turned away began to soften, moving from skepticism to understanding as Maria finished her heartfelt plea. Her eyes locked with Lily's, an unspoken promise passing between them. In that fleeting moment, she realized the true prize was not in winning their competition, but in forging a connection with her community. A community that needed to see the strength in vulnerability, the power in the shared struggle. But as she walked off the stage, amidst a rising tide of applause mingled with whispered conversations, Maria felt the undertow of another storm brewing. Would Tanya stand beside her, or were their wounds too deep to heal? The weight of uncertainty hung in the air, lingering like fog. With the possibility of renewal resting in front of her, Maria took a step forward into that blur, ready to reshape their bond and embrace the echoes of both love and rivalry. But just as the crowd began to rise, a voice pierced through the applause, demanding attention. She's only here to make excuses. The jeer carried a heavy blow. A newcomer stepped forward, eyes blazing with confrontation. Would Maria's moment of transformation be eclipsed by division once more? Maria turned, her heart sinking at the sight of the newcomer. The crowd fell into a new hush, the air thick with tension. The voice that had interrupted her resonated with disbelief and challenge, like a stone thrown into calm waters. Excuses? She echoed, managing to keep her voice steady despite the pain lacing her words. You don't know the half of it. The crowd shifted, unsure whether to embrace the defiant outsider or protect the woman who had just bared her soul. Maria could feel the heat radiating from the stranger, a fire ignited by misunderstanding. She glanced at Tanya, who stood frozen at the edge of the crowd, uncertainty etching lines on her forehead. Maria felt the distance between them expanding as their shared history surged to the forefront. You want to talk about choices? The stranger challenged, pacing the front of the hall. Let us talk about real choices, the ones that don't come with safety nets. Murmurs erupted around the room, some agreeing with the new voice, others shaking their heads in disapproval. Lily's small hand slipped into Maria's, a tight grip that anchored her momentarily. Maria turned to see her daughter, wide-eyed, searching for reassurance. Maria offered a smile, though it felt like a fragile shard of glass against the storm surrounding them. This isn't about excuses, it's about truth, Maria asserted, regaining her momentum. If I stand here today, it's because I want my truth to matter. I want to help others feel seen, not just to explain away my struggles. The stranger rolled her eyes, arms crossed, and a smirk on her face. Sure, lady, but it's easy to play the victim. What's hard is actually climbing out of it. A wave of discontent rippled through the crowd. Some turned to look at Maria as if expecting her to collapse under the pressure. Yet in that moment, the weight of vulnerability transformed into an unyielding strength coursing through her veins. "Do you think I chose this life?" Maria asked, meeting the stranger's defiant gaze. "Do you know what it's like to work 3 jobs just to scrape by? Every day, I juggle responsibilities and dreams, juggling choices made out of necessity, not desire. You don't see the scars I carry, or the sleepless nights that haunt me." Her voice cracked slightly, yet it rang clear and true. The audience swelled with sympathy as the once hesitant murmurs turned into supportive whispers. Maria could see flickers of recognition in their eyes, glimpses of their own battles, their own fears. "Instead of tearing each other down, let us lift each other up." She felt the words take root as they left her lips, a rallying cry that seemed to ignite a connection deep within those gathered. "We all face hardships. We all have stories. Let us share them, learn from one another, and work together." The stranger hesitated, caught off guard by the passion radiating from Maria. For an instant, the facade of hostility wavered, revealing something deeper, perhaps a longing for connection. Maria knew the fight wasn't over though. Change doesn't happen in a day. But she felt emboldened, fueled by newfound hope from the camaraderie blossoming around her. As the crowd began to applaud again, Maria spotted Tanya slipping out of the hall, a shadow sailing past the swirling mix of emotions. Confusion washed over Maria. Could she leave again, just as they began to bridge the gap? That question hung in the air as Maria stepped away from the podium, feeling not just a specter of doubt, but the awakening of something greater. Could she find the courage to rebuild both her relationship with Tanya and the shattered pieces of their family ties? Before she could chase after her sister, a voice from the back shouted, "I want to hear more. What's next after all these excuses?" The crowd gasped, and Maria's breath caught in her throat. This was only the beginning, but would she be strong enough to face it, not just for herself, but for the healing they all desperately needed? The uncertainty loomed heavy as she took a step forward, ready for whatever came next. Maria stood at the front of the hall, the applause fading but the fire inside her burning bright. She felt the crowd's energy swell, forming a protective bubble around her. But her gaze remained fixed on the door where Tanya had just disappeared. "What did I say?" a voice called out, breaking through the buzz of conversation. It was the stranger again, her tone suddenly softer. "You're acting like a martyr. But what's the solution?" Maria faced her, surprised by the quick shift. "The solution is in connection," she said, searching for words that resonated. "We can't just shout at each other. We need to share what we've each been through. Life isn't black and white, and everyone here, including you, has a story." Some heads nodded in the crowd, but skepticism lingered in the air. The stranger crossed her arms again. "Fine, tell us your solution," she demanded, her tone laced with challenge, but there was a hint of curiosity piercing through. Maria took a deep breath, feeling the weight of all those eyes watching her. "I want to start a community group," she proposed, her heart pounding. "Somewhere we can talk openly about our struggles, find support, share resources." Lily squeezed her hand tighter, drawing comfort in her mother's resolve. The energy in the room shifted slightly, tension loosening, yet Maria sensed the worry hiding beneath. "Will that fix everything?" The stranger shot back, her brow furrowed. "It's just talk. I senti it?" "Maybe," Maria replied, pushing past her weariness. "But it's a start. Just like I stood up here to share my truth, I can't promise miracles. But I can promise hope together. I think it's worth a shot," a man in the back chimed in. "We're stronger together." The murmurs grew in strength, voices melding, a cacophony of shared sentiments. "We can help each other," another woman added, her face lighting up in understanding. Maria felt relief, yet their new support was tempered by uncertainty. She had opened herself up to vulnerability. What if it wasn't enough? But before she could ponder further, Tanya's anxious figure reappeared, standing tentatively in the doorway, her expression uncertain. Maria's heart lurched. "Maria," Tanya spoke, her voice wavering. "I've heard every word from outside. Is this enough?" The crowd quieted down, sensing the gravity of the moment. All heads turned, waiting for Maria's response. Yes, Maria exclaimed, moving towards her sister. It is enough if we let it be. This is about more than just me. It's about us. Together. That's why I'm asking for help. Tanya's eyes glimmered with tears. Together? She whispered, a wavering hope cracking through her guard. Yes, together. Maria took a step closer, the air heavy with both doubt and an awakening desire. But would Tanya step forward? Would she truly reach out? As the crowd looked on, Maria felt the weight of the moment, and for the first time in a long time, she felt something stir inside her. Was it hope? Would this be their starting line? The silence felt electrifying, taut with anticipation. Could her family find a way back from the brink? Or was this moment just another false start? Her next words hung in the air, a question poised for the future. Will you join me, Tanya? What would her sister decide? The whole room went still, waiting for the answer that might change everything. Tanya's gaze searched the room, darting from one familiar face to another. Maria could see the struggle etched on her sister's features, the love they shared, tangled with past grievances. Would she step into the light or retreat into the shadows? Before Tanya could respond, a soft voice piped up from the crowd. You're not alone, Tanya, an older woman said, her voice steady and warm. We've all been there. Let us face this together. Like Maria said. Suddenly, more voices chimed in. It's okay to ask for help, a young man from the back called. We all need it at some point. No one has to carry the weight alone. Tanya flinched at first, the warmth of community feeling foreign. The support of the crowd was palpable, but the fear of rejection still shackled her feet to the floor. Maria moved closer, her heart pounding, a silent prayer escaping her lips. Tanya, she urged gently, please, we can do this. Let us find a way back to each other. You and me, we've walked through the dark alone for far too long. There was a delicate tremor in Tanya's voice when she finally spoke. I've been hurt. Maria, I don't know if I can trust it all again. What if I let you down? What if then we'll pick each other up? Maria interrupted, her voice firm but infused with warmth. That's the point of this. We're gonna figure it out together. Take one step at a time. We've done it before, haven't we? Tanya's shoulders slumped slightly, the tension released as she took a deep breath. The apprehension in her eyes softened as the vulnerability in her heart began to peek through the cracks. But what if the past? We won't let it define us, Maria replied, each word a lifeline tossed into the sea of uncertainty. This is our chance to rewrite the story. We could be the bulldozer pushing down old walls. Will you stand beside me, instead of letting those walls keep you away? The silence thickened again. The crowd, with bated breath, waited for an answer. For a moment, Tanya's gaze flickered away, landing on Lily. Their daughter's innocent face was alive with hope, reflecting back the love Tanya almost forgot existed. A flicker of recognition surged through her. She realized that hiding wouldn't bring peace. It only brought more pain. Tanya's voice cracked, a deep breath drawing in courage from the very depths of her being. I'll try, Maria. I'll try. Gasps of surprise rippled through the crowd. A wave of relief washed over Maria. The fissures began to fade in her heart. Then someone in the back shouted out, if you're going to try, we'll try with you. A roar of agreement echoed back, the room sparking to life again, hope intertwining with resolve. An energy surged in the air as new friendships began to ignite. Maria felt human warmth envelop her as people began to step forward, sharing their stories. This wasn't just a moment for her family. It was a moment for everyone. Yet just as solace began to permeate, a shadow flickered through Maria's mind. What if it all collapses? She thought. That thought darkened her heart for a fleeting moment. But pushing it aside, she squeezed her sister's hand tighter, anchoring to the present. We're strong enough to face this, she whispered. But would this surprising unity hold in the storms yet to come? With a heart full of cautious optimism, she looked back at Tanya. What if this is just the beginning? A new chapter opened for them, unsure but hopeful. As Maria glanced at the vibrant room full of voices now intertwining, she realized this journey was only just starting. With her heart racing and uncertainty looming like a storm cloud ready to burst, she voiced a thought that had been nagging at her since the moment she stepped on stage. Can we really build something solid together? And in that moment, with eyes wide open to possibilities, Maria felt both thrilled and terrified at the wild road ahead. What would their journey reveal about the strength of connection? The room buzzed with energy as Tanya's tentative commitment rippled through the crowd. Encouraged by the momentum, Maria found herself swept up in the collective spirit of support that hung in the air like a thick fog of warmth. She could feel her heart racing, yet a sense of clarity began to sharpen within the chaos. "Let us break those walls down," a woman shouted, echoing the urgency of the group. With every voice added to the chorus, the thickness of despair lifted, replaced by the sweet scent of possibility. Tanya moved slightly closer to the front, her presence a flickering candle in the growing blaze of camaraderie. "What if I fail?" she asked again, her voice just above a whisper. The crowd reacted, a steadiness of smiles and nods urging her on. "Then we'll pick you back up," a voice proclaimed, and just like that, what once felt overwhelming now felt tenderly familiar. It reminded Tanya of carefree summers spent outside where the world felt boundless, laughter echoing like music in the sun. Maria reached out, gently laying her hand on her sister's shoulder. "You won't fail, Tanya, not with us beside you. You're not alone in this." For the first time in years, Tanya looked directly into Maria's eyes, searching for a hidden truth. She found it: boundless love. In that moment, the past didn't feel like chains but rather stepping stones to the present. Every hurt, every argument between them was a part of a complicated tapestry, one that could be remade. With a deep breath, Tanya nodded. "Okay, I want to try." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Voices mixed together, forming a melody of acceptance that surrounded Tanya like a comforting blanket. She finally understood that her fears, while valid, didn't have to govern her life. Together, a group from the back shouted, reinforcing the bond forming in that small room filled with broken souls seeking healing. It was contagious, the way people began to reconnect or introduce themselves, brushing away past experiences like dust off a forgotten shelf. But Maria felt a flicker of anxiety. What if the past crept back in, with all its shadows and regrets? She needed to find a way to ensure this revived connection wouldn't dissolve like sugar in water. "Let us share our stories," Maria suggested, looking around at the faces before her. "We can support each other through our struggles. Who's willing to talk first?" A man stepped forward, his face marked by age but his eyes shining with determination. "I thought I was alone in my fight, but every day I realize how wrong I was. Just last month, I lost my job, a knock that shattered my world. I didn't think I would recover." He shared his hardships as the others listened with intent. The stories wove a web of shared experience, capturing every heart. Maria felt a lift as each story was recalled. It was raw, but there was power in vulnerability. As emotions rose, smiles mingled with tears. Maria saw Tanya draw strength from the energy around them. Each tale was a thread intertwining their lives together, creating fabric from raw imperfections. But amid the warmth, a question lingered in Maria's heart. How deep would this well of support go? Did they have the strength to dismantle each other's walls entirely? Just then, a commotion at the back of the room caught her attention. A new figure emerged from the shadows, a face both familiar and foreign, a reminder of conflicts that had settled like dust across the years. "Is this where the real healing begins?" the figure said, their voice steeped in uncertainty but carrying a weight of history. All eyes turned, and the room fell silent. Maria's heart raced as she recognized the embodiment of her fears standing before them. Would this be the moment that fractured everything, or could it pave the way for transformation? As the tension thickened, Maria felt the past pressing down, intertwining with hope. In that eye of the storm, she wondered who would be brave enough to take the next step forward. Tension rippled through the room, thick enough to cut. Maria's eyes locked on the newcomer, who was taking hesitant steps toward the circle. It was a face she hadn't seen in years, but the memories flooded back with brutal clarity. Jason, the brother of her high school friend, the one who had inserted himself in their lives during the darkest chapters of her teenage years. "Jason, what are you doing here?" Maria managed, her voice a mix of disbelief and wariness. I heard about this gathering," he replied, the earlier bravado fading into something softer, almost vulnerable. The echoes of their shared past hovered between them, filled with awkward silences and the weight of unspoken apologies. He cleared his throat, attempting to regain his composure while glancing at Tanya. "I didn't know this was your sister," he added, nodding toward Tanya, who was watching with wide eyes. "I just wanted to come and see if I could be part of whatever this is." Maria felt a fire kindling in her chest. Could enough time have passed for forgiveness, for an understanding that might lead to healing? Jason had helped her through some of the toughest moments, but he was wrapped in the chaos of their shared history like a tangled ball of yarn. "Can you really?" Maria challenged, her voice rising just a notch. "Can you be part of this? You left without a word, like you didn't care at all." Jason's expression shifted, sorrow etching deeper lines into his brow. "I do care. I know I made mistakes. I wasn't strong enough to face things." Then his voice trembled, and he drew his hands into the pockets of his jacket. "But I am now. I want to learn. I want to be better." Tanya stepped closer, curiosity written on her face. "Everyone makes mistakes, right? If you want to heal, we all deserve a chance to try again." A low murmur rippled through the crowd, uncertainty and a flicker of hope mingling in the air. Maria shifted her gaze, witnessing other attendees nod and whisper among themselves. It seemed that they too were weighing Jason's words, contemplating if they could accept someone who carried with him the weight of troubled memories. Then, Maria saw something glimmering in Tanya's eyes, a spark of empathy. It struck her that Tanya recognized something even deeper than forgiveness. She felt her sister's energy change, filled with the possibility of human connection. "I know how it feels to be lost," Tanya said softly, her voice carrying a strength that broke through the lingering tension. "We have all faced moments that left us feeling isolated. But isn't that why we're here? To connect, to heal?" As Tanya spoke, Maria felt a sense of awe at her sister's courage. The same spirit that had propelled her from doubt to commitment was now transforming the atmosphere around them. Jason's shoulders relaxed ever so slightly, the knots of apprehension slowly untangling. Yet just as hope began to blossom, another voice cut through the air, sharp as thorns. "But can we trust him? Just like that?" A woman near the front stood, skepticism dripping from her words. "He is coming back now, but what about all the damage left behind?" The room grew tense once more, uncertainty flooding in. Maria's heart thudded. It felt like an echo of the fraught decisions they had faced before. Would she allow Jason's presence to sway the collective journey they had set upon? What if opening the door to him meant opening old wounds? The room held its breath as Maria glanced at Tanya, then at Jason, whose eyes held a glimmer of desperation. The silence amplified, wrapping them all in a fragile cocoon of anticipation. In that moment, Maria realized the power of choice, the struggle of pushing boundaries, but also the possibility of forgiveness. Where would they go from here? Would healing survive the weight of their shared past, or would it crack under the strain? She took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of uncertainty quicken within. "Okay, if we're doing this together, then let us talk. But it has to be real. Who's brave enough to begin?" This was the moment she had envisioned, full of potential, yet rife with risks. The fate of their shared healing hung in the balance, and Maria realized that sometimes, embracing vulnerability meant standing right on the edge of the unknown. What would this journey reveal, and who would fall behind? As all eyes turned to Jason, waiting, the question lingered in the air: would he step fully into this circle of vulnerability, or retreat back into the shadows of the past? Maria felt a mounting anxiety as the room held its collective breath. Jason stood there, every eye trained on him, waiting. She could almost hear the rush of his heartbeat, the weight of expectations pressing in. The silence was thick, a fragile boundary between the past and whatever might come next. "You don't have to say anything," You know? He finally spoke, breaking the stillness. His voice was quiet yet carried a desperation that touched her. I wanted to be here to see you all and maybe, just maybe, to fix some of what I broke. Those words hung in the air, lingering as something like hope and something like fear twisted together in Maria's chest. How many times had she wished for this moment? And now that it had arrived, her heart felt heavy with doubt. But why now, Jason? Why after all this time? Maria's voice cracked slightly, betraying her growing emotions. He flinched at her words but met her gaze. I needed to grow up, to understand what I lost when I distanced myself from you all. I took the easy road and it hurt. Now I want to face it. A soft murmur rippled through the attendees around them. Maria glanced at Tanya, who had taken a step back, her expression a mix of compassion and uncertainty. Maybe we shouldn't ignore the damage, Tanya said gently but firmly. But if we refuse to at least try, aren't we just repeating the same cycles of pain? Jason nodded fervently, sensing their collective struggle. The scary I senti it? To lay ourselves bare? But I'm here because I believe we can learn from this. Wanting to be better doesn't erase what happened, but it can pave the way forward. Another woman chimed in, a motherly figure with silver-streaked hair. We've lost so much trust over the years, and it's not easy for everyone to believe that. But if we don't try to heal together, we're only going to keep hurting. Maria's heart raced. Could Jason bring real change? Would it be worth reopening old wounds to allow for healing? She wanted to believe him, yet fear of betrayal loomed large in her mind. Everyone deserves a chance to make amends, right? Tanya's eyes sparkled with sincerity, and Maria felt the pulse of hope rising in the room like a warm balm. The shifting dynamics pushed gently against the walls of long-standing pain, urging them to reconsider what truly lay ahead. Yes, Maria finally said, her voice strong, but it starts with honesty. Jason, can you show us how you've changed? Can you share your struggles and your truth? His breath hitched, and he seemed to gather himself, his gaze dropping to the floor for a moment. I've learned from my mistakes, Maria. I've gone through therapy. I've faced the demons I ran from. I can't change the past, but I can promise to show up better, to be accountable. As he spoke, you could feel the room moving. Hearts shifted, and walls began to lower. Maria exhaled slowly, feeling a small crack in the wall of distrust she had built over the years. Yet, even as hope flickered, she couldn't help but wonder if it was enough. What if he faltered again? Like before? Would they have the strength to pick up the pieces? Okay, let's take it step by step, Maria suggested, glancing around at the hesitant yet intrigued faces surrounding them. There were fleshy moments of silence as everyone processed the risk being proposed. We'll listen to you, Jason, Tanya said, her determination rising. But we need to know you're truly committed to this. Can you promise not to let us down again? Jason's eyes shone with earnestness as he nodded, determination radiating from him. I promise I will do everything I can. The weight of those words rested heavily yet softly in the air. A spark of something new kindled in the hearts of many. But uncertainty lingered in Maria's chest. This was just the beginning. Would trust grow? Or would it shatter all over again? As Jason prepared to reveal more of himself, Maria felt the trembling tension coiling again around them. The daunting path ahead like thoughts unsaid. Hidden truths waiting to come to light. How much would they all have to sacrifice for healing to take root? And what secrets might emerge from the dark corners of their pasts? Okay, let us hear it, Maria finally urged, her heart pounding. She was desperate to see Jason's truth. Where do you start? He drew in a trembling breath, his eyes shifting from face to face in the crowd. Each gaze held its own baggage, its own questions. Maria wished she knew what they were all feeling, what they were all hiding. For her, it was practically suffocating. Jason finally focused again on her, the intensity in his eyes reaching out, attempting to bridge the distance between them. I guess I'll start from the beginning, he said quietly. His voice was still shaky but steadied a bit as he continued. After we fell apart, what I did next was almost ridiculous. It's like I put on blinders. He swallowed hard and leaned slightly forward, his hands gripping the edges of the table as if it was his only anchor. I dropped out of school. I was ashamed of what I did to all of you, and I thought that if I decided to erase my path, it would somehow erase the mess I'd made. Maria's heart tugged. She had seen the signs even then, the way he acted as if the world had turned against him, retreating into silence, self-imposed exile. And yet, she had held on, waiting for a hint of remorse, a flash of regret. I moved around a lot, he continued, voice thickening. Always running. But the truth is, wherever I went, the guilt followed. His gaze fell, hiding beneath the weight of his memories. I kept messing up. Relationships, jobs, everything. I spiraled downwards, losing parts of myself until I was nothing. Jason paused, letting the ache settle in the room. The crowd was with him, many shifting uncomfortably in their seats, feeling the weight of his words deep within. What hurt the most, though, was constantly thinking about all of you. The good times, the laughter, the love we shared. And how I turned my back on it. It ate at me every day. His voice dropped an octave, desperate to convey his pain. I wanted to change, but I didn't know how. That when I finally sought help. He glanced around, his eyes lingering longer on Maria. Therapy forced me to confront who I had become. It was hard, but facing the truth was the only way I knew how to start mending the pieces of myself and hopefully yours. Maria blinked back tears. For the first time, she was witnessing his vulnerability, raw and unfiltered. The tangled knot of resentment in her chest loosened ever so slightly. You really struggled, she said softly. More than I can express, Jason admitted, a flicker of relief in his voice. And I want to admit that. I regret everything. I regret you all being hurt. I can't undo it, but there is one thing I can do. I can try to make it right. As he finished, there was a palpable shift in the room. Jason's courage was like a light breaking the lingering shadows. Questions danced in the air, some hopeful, some skeptical. But Maria felt the emergence of something new within her possibility. What if you mess up again? A hesitant voice broke the silence, courageous yet shaking. Maria realized it belonged to one of the younger attendees, a girl with wide, hopeful eyes. That's the truth I'll have to live with every day. Jason's eyes were fierce with honesty. But I promise I won't shy away. I'll keep coming back to face my own mistakes, to face you. Maria held her breath. There was a spark of hope igniting within her, ready to challenge the deep-seated fears she had carried for years. Would the spark catch fire, or would it fizzle out under pressure? All right, Jason, Maria said, faltering yet determined. If we're going to do this, we need to confront the pain head-on. Together. In that moment, she felt the shift within herself, the beginning of their shared journey. Uncertain paths loomed ahead, but honesty was the first step toward healing. As the room began to murmur with renewed curiosity and questions, Maria could feel that familiar coil of anxiety, every heartbeat echoing the uncertainty of their upcoming conversations. How deep would the wounds run? And would they all emerge stronger? Or would some scars remain too deep to heal? Maria stood at the front of the hall, her heart pounding with anticipation. She could see all the faces, some hopeful, some apprehensive, all waiting for what came next. That moment of fragile clarity hung in the air, thick with promise and uncertainty. Jason, standing amidst the crowd, shifted on his feet, the weight of their past hanging above them like a storm cloud. What if this doesn't work? He whispered, vulnerability creeping into his tone. What if I let you down again? But what if you don't? Maria countered gently, stepping closer. What if this is the moment we all need? The past can't be changed, but we can decide to step forward together. Her eyes shimmered with determination, unyielding even under the heavy gaze of history. The crowd held its breath, the tension taut like a wire ready to snap. As Maria's words hung in the air, a flicker of courage ignited within Jason. He took a deep breath, grounding himself. I know my journey has just begun. Mistakes will still come, but I'm committed to being better. I want to show you how serious I am, not only with words but with action. From the back of the room, a hesitant yet warm voice rose. But how do we trust you? How do we know this isn't just a moment? It was an older woman, her eyes piercing but understanding. You don't, Jason replied, unflinching. Trust takes time and I have to earn it. I know I can't ask for your faith without proving I'm willing to work for it. The sincerity in his voice sent ripples of thought through the crowd. Maria nodded, feeling the energy shift. We can all be accountable. Let us create a space for each of us to share our journeys, our scars, and our victories. A murmur of agreement spread around the room, gathering strength and hope in its wake. Slowly, the stories began to unfold, voices rising together like a chorus. A middle-aged man shared his struggle with addiction, the path to recovery twisting and gritty, but filled with glimmers of support he found in unexpected places. Tears flowed freely as one by one people bared their souls, stories intertwining like roots seeking support from the soil around them. Tanya stood by Maria's side, nodding as a woman spoke about losing a loved one and the loneliness that engulfed her thereafter. That's why we're here, Tanya chimed in. To remind one another that we are not alone. Together we can face our truths, however painful they might be. The power of her words resonated through the crowd as shared understanding grew like wildflowers through cracks in concrete. Maria felt her heart swell with pride. Tanya's transformation was right there with her, a blossoming flower breaking through layers of neglect. It was a moment of vulnerability from both of them, unearthing the deep-rooted love intertwined with years of pain. Somewhere in the crowd, Jason found his footing, growing stronger as each story echoed back to him. I want to hear more, he said eagerly, as if the voice of the people was his lifeline. He needed to know them, to give context to his past and present self. A wave of courage surged, nudging others to the forefront. They shared their failures, fears, and glimpses of hope, each confession fitting together like pieces of a large puzzle, whose picture was still unclear. Each story seemed to chip away at the hard shell of doubt that had been building, and Maria felt lighter with each confession. Yet the lingering shadows reminded her that they had work ahead. The intermingling of honesty opened doors she never thought they could walk through. We have to keep this momentum, Maria finally said, her heart racing with the possibility. Can we form a group where we keep meeting, to share progress, our setbacks, and where we stand? Yes, someone shouted from the crowd, enthusiasm skyrocketing. Let us make this a committed journey. Applause erupted like fireworks, a collective affirmation of newfound purpose as the chatter buzzed. Maria's gaze drifted toward Jason. He was listening intently, the resolve in his eyes reflecting a fiery hope for redemption. Together we'll lift each other up, he murmured, as if echoing the promises made in the room. This time we do it differently. Suddenly, a knock on the door cut through the warmth. The crowd silenced, eyes shifting toward the entrance. A woman stood there, hesitant but persistent. With her hair swept back and eyes shining with unshed tears, she spoke. I heard you talking about transformation, she said. I just wanted to know if I could join this. Absolutely, Maria replied, a smile breaking through her uncertainty. Welcome. A wave of inclusion swept through them, growing ever stronger. As new voices joined the chorus of healing, Maria's heart swelled with warmth, filling her with a sense of unity she'd long sought. They each held pieces of a shared dream, supporting one another, forging connections where distrust had previously laid waste. And with that, it was clear. This wasn't just a moment but the beginning of a true transformation. Maria felt their raw human spirit entwine with the energy of bonding and community, birthing something much larger than herself. Where once there had been shadows of despair and division, now a flicker of hope ignited in unison, burning ever brighter as the stories flowed and the energy pulsed. Maria realized this was her family, their voices braided together in a tapestry of resilience. Each story told was a step toward healing and connection, and for the first time, she felt the true sense of home amidst them. Together, they would redefine what it meant to belong. In the depths of her heart, Maria understood the urgency of the moment. This was their chance. This was the time to connect and nurture what they had the potential to become. Little did they know, the path ahead would not be easy, but they were ready to face it as one together. They would build bridges from their isolated struggles. Subscribe now to keep following our journey. Trust me, You don't want to miss the next episode filled with transformation. Leave a like if you believe in the power of connection and support. Comment below with your favorite moment from today. We want to hear from you. Share this with 5 friends who could use a little inspiration. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the message of hope. Let us grow this community together, one story at a time.